Good afternoon and welcome to the News Review, your platform for a closer look at the stories making headlines, the issues behind the headlines, and the questions that demand answers. From Ghana's economy and politics to governance, business, security, and development beyond our borders, we go behind the headlines and then the facts, the neglections, and what they mean for you. I am El Samuels, and in the next few minutes, we'll bring in you all the reviews that are major stories across the country. In our first story, the President, John Dramani Mahama, says Ghana will hold a referendum in 2027 on a proposed amendment to the 1992 Constitution. The referendum is expected to be held alongside the 2027 District Assembly elections, giving Ghanaians the opportunities to decide key proposed changes to the Council's constitutional framework.
President John Dramani Mahama says Ghanaians will go to the polls in 2027 to vote on proposed amendments to the 1992 Constitution. The referendum is expected to take place alongside the 2027 District Assembly elections. The proposed constitutional reforms include changes relating to the length of presidential and parliamentary terms, the election of metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives, the age qualification for presidential candidates, and other aspects of Ghana's governance system. Some of the proposed amendments will require approval through a referendum because they affect provisions classified as entrenched clauses of the Constitution. President Mahama says the process is intended to give Ghanaians the opportunity to determine the future direction of the country's constitutional and democratic system. The proposed reforms are expected to generate significant public debate ahead of the referendum, with citizens, political parties, civil society organizations, and constitutional experts expected to scrutinize the implications of each amendment. Ghanaians will therefore be required not to only participate in the referendum, but also to understand the specific constitutional changes being proposed before casting their votes.
The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission (GTEC) has directed senior officials of the public universities to resume work amidst the ongoing strike by the Ghana Association of University Administrators (GAO).
The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission (GTEC) has directed senior university officials to resume work as the strike by the Ghana Association of University Administrators (GAWA) continues. The directive comes amid concerns over disruptions to administrative activities within public universities following the industrial action. GTEC says the affected senior officials are expected to report to work and continue the essential administrative functions of their respective institutions. The development follows ongoing disagreements between GAWA and the relevant authorities over issues surrounding the conditions of service and other concerns raised by the university administrators. The directive is expected to add pressure to efforts to resolve the dispute and restore normal administrative operations across the affected universities. Students, staff, and other stakeholders are now watching for further engagement between GTEC, university authorities, and GAWA to find a lasting resolution to the impasse.
Now to the corridors of the New Patriotic Party. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says the party's regional executive elections are now over and has called on members to unite and focus on winning the 2028 general elections.
New Patriotic Party flag bearer Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has called for unity within the party as it begins preparation towards the 2028 general elections. Dr. Bawumia says the regional contests are now over and the party's attention must shift to building unity, renewing its energy, and working towards victory in 2028. The call comes as the NPP continues its internal reorganization following the party's defeat in the 2024 general elections. Dr. Bawumia has previously stressed the need for early unity and hard work, arguing that the party must address its internal challenges well ahead of the next elections. He is urging newly elected regional executives and party members to put the internal contest behind them and focus on strengthening the party at the grassroots.
So there's a lot of work ahead of us, and we are going to do that work in unity. If we are united, I'm telling you, we will win 2028. That is the key ingredient for victory is unity. And that is what I want to really plead, that this election is over. You've had competitors. Let us come together. And I believe in what Dr. Okoboa has said, that he would do everything to bring everybody and use everybody's talents. Because if we keep our talents, at home or in the cupboard, it doesn't help the party. We want to use everybody's talents to get victory for the party. And I want to emphasize that, I am open to work with everybody.
And from the office of the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, we trek to the Minister of Education's appeals to the Ghana Association of University Administrators to call off its ongoing strike and return to negotiation table to resolve the outstanding outcomes. The appeals comes as industrial action by members of the Ghana Association of University Administrators continue to disrupt administrative activities across public universities. The Education Minister says government remains committed to engaging the association to address its concerns and find a lasting solution to the impasse. The strike has raised concerns about its potential impact on the smooth administration of universities, particularly institutions prepared for key academic and administrative activities. The minister is therefore urging the leadership of GAIA to reconsider its position and resume work whilst negotiations continue. Government says it remains open to dialogue and believes the outstanding issues can be resolved through constructive engagement. The latest development comes amidst growing calls for swift resolution to prevent the industrial action from further affecting university operations.
The Deputy Minister for Finance just spoke to me. He said even when you wrote GTEC wrote to you, and one of you in your writing, you copied him. They've asked for validated audit of the numbers to pay. Give me 1 month from today. Today is like 16th. So 1 month from today, but I need the data.
Meanwhile, attention is also attending to the political parties and preparation ahead of the 2028 general election. And still on with education, we're moving to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, where the Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has called for a new world order that promotes fairness and justice as Russia expressed support for Ghana's efforts to advance the restitution agenda for Africa. Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa says the time has come for a fundamental shift in global relations, particularly in how Africa's historical injustice and stolen cultural heritage are addressed. He made a call as Russia backed Ghana's initiative to convene a restitution summit aimed at advancing discussions on the return of African cultural artifacts and addressing the legacy of historical exploitation. Mr. Ablakwa urges that Africa must have a stronger voice in shaping the international system and determining how its historical and cultural resources are preserved and returned. The proposed summit is expected to bring together key stakeholders to discuss restitution, historical justice, and stronger international cooperation. Russia's support for the initiative is being seen as an important diplomatic endorsement of Ghana's efforts to place restitution and reparative justice higher on the global agenda. Mr. Ablakwa says the broader objective should be to build a more equitable international order in which African countries have greater influence over decisions affecting their history, resources, and future.
The whole reparatory justice agenda, this is it. It's also about sovereignty. It's about allowing African countries to take control of our resources. We don't want to be exporting raw materials any longer, and President Mahama has been clear about that, and I raised that at a meeting. I want to commend Russia for declaring their support for a new economic paradigm where we will no longer be at the mercy of exploitation. We want to add value to our own resources, industrialize, build factories, And then you can partner with us in a win-win arrangement. But this business where we don't determine the prices of natural resources we own, we don't determine the prices of our cocoa, of our gold, which Ghana is the #1 producer of in the world. We don't determine the prices of our bauxite, of our oil and gas and all of that. We cannot continue with that rigged global order. So reparatory justice encapsulates all of these germane matters, which are really essential towards the final liberation. You see, Kwame Nkrumah talked about the political liberation which we won in 1957 when we were the first African country to win independence.
And now to the Gold Board debate, where political tensions and questions about accountability continues to dominate discussions. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has issued a strong warning concerning the future legal consequences for the current leadership of Gold Board. The Minority Leader issued a warning at a press conference in Parliament, drawing a comparison between the bail conditions imposed on some persons and the investigation and what officials of the current administration could face if the NPP returns to power. Afenyo-Markin suggested the precedents being set by the government could have consequences for current public officials, particularly Gold Board executives, whom he claims may be required to answer questions over an alleged financial losses involving the institution. He has repeatedly raised concerns about what the minority described as a 22 billion Ghana cedis loss at Gold Board, insisting the institution must account for the funds. Afenyo-Markin says the minority position is not about personal attack, but about ensuring accountability and protecting the public resources. He has cautioned current government officials to consider the standard being established today, warning that political power can change hands and the same standard could eventually be applied to them.
Say, Obi, akoye jumampo baby, na sende iyoko for tatano. Yoko for tata binum Attorney General ye press conference osio obimpo oye ayaban adwuma eka 5 million cedis 3 million cedis 10 million cedis yetum frɛ wo Iyoko na wakoda ho na yese fa ejapade a asumbo for branch amobile nene go bo for bail dia be hu Tio me bao we dia sa 22 billion losses here almost Gold Board aboki and then who bail ezika ben na ye de beji bail oh we as said there tie yes wo we ofon sa na wa hwe won sa we ase aye wo no se tumi ba won sem na se wo de tata obi a hweniye and this for nam MPP for Bokrono, MPP for Bokrono, MPP for to say, MPP for to say. Gold kaka munkotono, gold, munkoton gold. Munkoboka 22 billion cedis. Afibako. Ya kan ya no mu visa mu didi atemwa.
And from Ghana's gold sector to the state of the country's Road and Highway Minister Kwame Governs Abuja says government payment to contractors must reflect invisible work on the ground.
The Roads Minister says contractors who have received payments from government must now demonstrate value for money by returning to project sites and accelerating work. The government has been settling outstanding obligations to road contractors as part of efforts to revive stalled and abandoned projects. The Roads Ministry has repeatedly stressed that payments are tied to verified work and that contractors are expected to deliver projects up to the required standards. Mr. Agboja's latest charge comes amid concerns over the condition of roads in several parts of the country, with motorists and communities demanding faster completion of delayed projects. The minister says government will not accept a situation where public funds are released without corresponding progress on the ground. He is therefore urging contractors to use the resources provided to mobilize equipment, materials, and workers and ensure that Ghanaians can see tangible improvements in their communities. The government's wider road agenda includes the Big Push program, which is intended to accelerate major road and infrastructure projects nationwide. The roads minister has also previously indicated that government is prioritizing projects that are properly budgeted and funded rather than spreading limited resources across too many projects.
Government is committed, as I said earlier. Government has paid over 23 billion so far on roads, and the bulk of that is arrears. Because if you notice, your project, the one at Ofankor, we inherited. But when we inherited it, there was an outstanding debt of 78 million, which we paid. That is classified either as Big Push or arrears. So the 23 billion is a lot of money to be paid to road contractors. It's the largest payment on capital expenditure from government. And the Ghanaian public is demanding to see what we are spending the money on. We believe by the end of 2027, it will be obvious to everybody what we spent the money on. And we are counting on you to be able to make the public proud of what we are doing as Ghanaians. So it's more than the 1.7 billion that the president of Institution of Engineering is saying we shouldn't spend on the Accra Kumasi. Then let somebody tell him that we have paid almost $2 billion already on to contractors. We can't spend all the money in the country on road because the other sectors, health, education, and everything, that salaries that needed to be paid. And just yesterday, government, today you saw news item, government paid the DDPE another 10 billion Ghana cedi. So we are actually paying for what matters to people, and also paying for the huge and colossal debt that was left to us. We have paid all those things on time. So President Mohammed's government is actually showing efficiency and commitment to our country, managing the economy well by the the finance minister. We are doing things better for the people of our country, and we have to be proud of ourselves. Today, those who are old know that we will pay you on time. That is what it's required. We are not going to default on our debt. We are going to.
You're still live on the news review, live and direct from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate. As mining activities continues across the country, concerns about safety of workers remain equally important. Madam Daku Opoku is urging miners to put safety first, stressing that the pursuit of gold must never come at the expense of human life.
Madam Daku Opoku says the value of gold cannot compare with the value of a human life. She is therefore calling on miners to exercise great caution at mining sites and comply with safety regulations to prevent avoidable deaths and injuries. According to her, no amount of gold can compensate a family for the loss of a loved one, particularly when such tragedies could have been prevented through proper safety practices. She is also urging mining operators to provide safe working conditions, appropriate protective equipment, and adequate training for workers. The call comes amid continuing concerns over accidents and fatalities in Ghana's mining sector. Madam Daku Opoku says miners must remember that the ultimate goal is not simply to find gold, but to return home safely to their families. Her message is clear. Gold may bring wealth, but it cannot replace a human life.
Rethinking the social license to operate. For decades, the mining sector has defined its social license through traditional CSR, building a small school, digging a borehole, or grading a road. I challenge you today to elevate that standard. A true social license cannot simply mean the community tolerates our presence. It must mean because this company operated here, our people live longer, healthier lives. Your host communities are not coordinates on concession map. They are homes, They are human beings. When you, miners, your local contractors, and their families face chronic illness, where do they go? They depend on the very regional and district hospitals that lack equipment and specialists. Imagine the power of a mining company saying to its host region, "We didn't just extract gold from your soil, we built the regional cancer center that saved your mother. We installed the cath lab that saved your chief." This is not CSR. This is an unshakable generational social license.
Now, moving on, the challenge confronting Ghana's education sector goes beyond public relations. Reports indicate that about 10,700 basic schools across 13 regions lack adequate classroom infrastructure. What does this mean for the quality of education and the learning environment for children of Ghana?
The classroom deficit continues to pose a major challenge to Ghana's basic education system, with schools in several parts of the country operating without adequate infrastructure. The situation means some pupils are forced to learn in overcrowded classrooms, temporary structures, or other unsuitable environments. Education stakeholders say the shortage can affect teaching and learning, pupil concentration, and overall quality of basic education. The challenge also places additional pressure on teachers who have to manage large numbers of pupils with limited space and resources. The figures have renewed calls for government and other stakeholders to prioritize classroom construction and rehabilitation, particularly in underserved communities. Education advocates say addressing the infrastructure gap must go hand in hand with efforts to improve teacher availability, learning materials, and other basic facilities. They are therefore calling for sustained investment in basic education to ensure that every child has access to a safe, adequate, and conducive learning environment. With thousands of public basic schools still facing classroom shortages, stakeholders say urgent and targeted investment is needed to close Ghana's basic education infrastructure gap.
And to respond to yours is, does evidence, or how can evidence inform policy appropriate? And I just share a classic example. This morning on my way here, I read the Auditor General's report on education and on the Ghana Education Service. And the Auditor General reveals that about 10,700 public basic schools in 13 regions with total enrollment of over 3 million are without classrooms. So to tell research, this is how evidence can inform policy. So any proactive and responsible government must respond to this need. The need that it is unacceptable to have this population not assured of access to basic education, particularly when the Constitution of Ghana. So GitLab, we need more outside evidence when you begin to work. Share with us in a manner which is frank, brutally frank, and candid, the state of our education provision.
We now turn our attention to the judiciary, where two significant developments are attracting attention. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on a legal challenge commencing directive issued by the Chief Justice on the legal vacation period. And separately, the court has...
The Supreme Court is set to deliver...
during the judicial vacation, dismissing the application of the former Information Minister, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah.
The Supreme Court is set to deliver its ruling on Friday in a case challenging the Chief Justice's directives on the legal vacation. The case has attracted attention within the legal community, with the challenge seeking judicial determination on the directives and their application during the vacation period. The ruling is expected to clarify the matter and provide direction on the implementation of the Chief Justice's directives. More details are expected when the Supreme Court delivers its decision on Friday.
Well, we're dealing with it here, and it's for all citizens to ensure that your right is also upheld. It's been adjourned to tomorrow 10 o'clock for the ruling to be made, the ruling on the injunction application. Thank you.
The Supreme Court is set to deliver its ruling on Friday in a case challenging the Chief Justice's directives on the legal vacation. The case has attracted attention within the legal community, with the challenge seeking judicial determination on the directives and their application during the vacation period. The ruling is expected to clarify the matter and provide direction on the implementation of the Chief Justice's directives. More details are expected when the Supreme Court delivers its decision on Friday.
Well, we're dealing with it here, and it's for all citizens to ensure that your right is also upheld. It's been adjourned to tomorrow 10 o'clock for the ruling to be made.
Now, moving on, the impact of Ghana's financial sector cleanup is also still being felt by workers in the mining industry. The Ghana Miners Union is demanding the release of funds belonging to more than 19,000 miners whose savings remain locked up in affected financial institutions.
The Ghana Mine Workers Union is mounting pressure on government and the Bank of Ghana over the continued delay in releasing funds belonging to more than 19,000 miners. The affected miners have had their savings locked up in financial institutions that collapsed during the financial sector cleanup. The union says the prolonged delay has caused financial hardship for its members, many of whom depend on their savings for their livelihoods and retirement security. The Mine Workers Union is therefore calling for urgent action to ensure that the affected miners receive their funds. The latest protest revives concerns over unresolved claims arising from the financial sector cleanup and the need for mechanisms to recover funds from liquidated financial institutions. The union says it will continue to press for the release of the monies until its members receive.
We are demanding. We are demanding. We are demanding. The governor of the Bank of Ghana owes us a responsibility under its enabling act to protect us. Exactly so. Unfortunately, they have failed. And so we are demanding that all our locked up funds in excess of 350 million Ghana cedis belonging to 19,000 members, miners of this country and their families. We are demanding every penny from the Bank of Ghana. Today, you have just about 150 members who are National Executive Council members. Our membership is in excess of 14,000. The next time we are here, we are coming with all the 19,000 members, both current and former. We are coming with our wives and our children. We are coming here with our husbands and our children. We are coming here with our grandparents, our grandmothers, our uncles and our aunties, because all of them depend on our life savings. And so, as a law-abiding institution, the Ghana Mine Workers Union of the Trades Union Congress.
And staying with issues affecting everyday life, Thursday morning widespread power outages has been traced to a major fault on the Akosombo water transmission line.
Ghana has experienced another widespread power outage, with Gridco blaming a major fault on the Akosombo Volta transmission line. Gridco says the fault occurred at about 4:30 Thursday morning, triggering the automatic shutdown of the Akosombo generating units and some thermal power plants. The company says the shutdown was activated by the power system's protection mechanisms to safeguard the stability of the National Interconnected Transmission System. Gridco engineers, working with other power sector agencies, immediately isolated the affected transmission line and began a systematic restoration of electricity. The company says power has already been restored to some affected areas, while technical teams continue working to reconnect the remaining customers. Gridco has apologized for the inconvenience and assured the public that efforts are underway to achieve full restoration as quickly and safely as possible. The latest disruption comes just weeks after a similar nationwide power system disturbance on July 29.
And from power supply to housing, there is a renewed hope for a long-delayed Saglemi housing project. Government says works to revive the project is progressing, with hundreds of housing units targeted for completion.
The Saglemi housing project, which has remained largely unfinished for years, has been revived as the government seeks to put the development back into use. Authorities say 700 housing units are expected to be ready by March. A further 800 units are expected to be completed by December 2027, bringing the total number of units targeted under the current phase to 1,500. The project, located in the Greater Accra region, was originally intended to help address Ghana's housing deficit. But the development became the subject of controversy after thousands of homes were left unfinished, with questions raised over the cost of the project and the circumstances surrounding its construction. Successive governments have explored ways of completing and putting the facilities to use. The latest revival plan is intended to ensure that the existing infrastructure does not continue to deteriorate while providing much-needed accommodation. The government says the work will focus on completing the unfinished structures and making the necessary infrastructure available for residents. The project has also featured prominently in discussions about public spending, with calls for greater accountability over how much has already been spent and what will be required to complete it. For potential residents, the key issue now is whether the latest timetable can be met. The government is targeting March for the first 700 completed units, with the broader 1,500 unit target expected by December 2027. The Saglemi project has been on the government's agenda for years. The latest plan puts a new completion timetable on the development, but questions remain over funding, delivery, and how the completed homes will be allocated.
I emphasize what has been said. You can see the beautiful montage behind me. This is how it's going to look when you come back at the end of next year. As the developer said, 700 units by March next year we'll be able to commission, and another 1,000, actually total of 1,500 by end of next year, by December next year. This was a vision that was started by Professor Atta Mills, and I came and continued it. Unfortunately, when government changed hands, there were some issues, legal issues, and the new government said they wanted to investigate, and so in the meantime the project stalled. Now the unfortunate thing that happened was, looters came in and stole everything, the cables, the wash basins, the baths, all the fittings, electricals, bulbs. They even took the telecom cables from underground and pulled them away and took them, and so it just left an empty shell. And eventually the government agreed that the private sector should partner to finish it, and LMI were chosen to do it. You can see what it's going to look like when this place is finished, there's going to be a very conducive housing estates. We have a big housing program coming out, and it will be announced by the finance minister in the new budget. Already the Works and Housing Ministry is.
Away from Sagalemi, the Supreme Court has ruled that cases can be held during the court's vacation, dismissing application by the former Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah challenging the trial schedule.
The Supreme Court has dismissed an application filed by former Information Minister and Ofuase Ayiribi MP Kojo Oppong Nkrumah challenging the decision to proceed with his trial during the court's vacation. Mr. Oppong Nkrumah had objected to the hearing of the case during the vacation period, raising concerns over whether the proceedings could properly continue at that time. But in its ruling, the Supreme Court held that vacation does not prevent the courts from hearing cases where circumstances warrant it. The ruling therefore means the trial can proceed despite the courts being on vacation. The decision is significant because it addresses the broader question of whether ongoing criminal proceedings can be scheduled during the judicial vacation. The Supreme Court's ruling now removes the legal hurdle raised by the application and allows the lower court's proceedings to continue. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, who served as Information Minister under the previous administration, has been facing legal proceedings in a case that has attracted considerable public and political attention. The latest ruling does not, however, determine the substantive issues in the case itself. It is focused on the question of whether the trial can proceed during the court's vacation. The case is therefore expected to return to the trial court for further proceedings. The ruling reinforces the principle that the court's vacation does not automatically bring all judicial proceedings to a halt, particularly where the court considers it necessary for a matter to proceed.
A few remarks, and then I'll let Senior Frank address you in detail. The court has dismissed our injunction application, but in the ruling, some very interesting pronouncements have been made. For the first time, the courts have admitted that some cases have been treated differently. Those are the words of the judge. They are being treated differently and expeditiously. Why? He doesn't say so. But then he proceeds to say that, in his opinion, that will not amount to a violation of the constitutional articles that we have raised in this particular matter, and that he thinks that that will even be in the interest of the accused persons. We've asked for a certified copy so that we can peruse it some more, and then on the advice of counsel we'll take the next steps.
When you come to court, with an anticipatory mind. When you have an injunction application, whatever application you have before the court, it either will be refused or will be granted. So yes, the judge has made a determination. It is not in our place as lawyers to condemn the judge. We can only critique. The plaintiff has told you in very short terms his understanding of what happened in the courtroom. So we will abide the ruling of the court for now. We are not given to say the things other lawyers say when decisions of the court are handed and doesn't go in their favor. We will not repeat those chants because they don't sit in our usual lexicon as lawyers.
And finally, on our major stories, school safety remains firmly on the national agenda. The Deputy Education Minister says officials responsible for protecting students will be held accountable if systems designed to ensure their safety fail.
The Deputy Education Minister says the government will not tolerate failures in systems meant to keep students safe in schools. The warning comes as authorities continue to focus on safety and security within educational institutions. The Deputy Minister says responsibility for protecting students extends beyond teachers and school authorities to all institutions and officials tasked with ensuring that safety measures are properly implemented. The government says schools must have effective systems for identifying risks, responding to emergencies, and protecting students from harm. The Deputy Minister has also stressed the need for school authorities to take safety protocols seriously and ensure that concerns are reported and addressed promptly. The comments come amid wider concerns about the safety of children in schools and whether existing safeguards are strong enough to prevent incidents and protect vulnerable students. Education authorities are expected to work with school managers and other stakeholders to identify weaknesses and strengthen safety measures. The Deputy Minister says accountability will be an important part of that process. Officials found to have neglected their responsibilities could face consequences if failures in school safety systems are established. For parents and guardians, the issue goes beyond academic performance, with growing expectations that schools should provide an environment where children can learn safely. The Deputy Minister says improving school safety will require not only clear policies, but also effective implementation and accountability when those systems fail.
And to indicate that the matter at hand is one that has gravely worried the minister and myself. As the sector ministry, we have oversight responsibility over all our agencies and their conduct. And so the minister instructed me to issue the statement. We are aware of the statement that was earlier issued by the GES, but we felt that as a ministry, we needed to come out and state very clearly how we feel about the situation and to give specific directives, because truly, we do not find it acceptable that a 14-year-old girl who is on record as a student with special needs is victimized by two adult watchmen or security guards, and then on top of that, she is being deboardized. And we thought that clearly cannot be acceptable. That cannot be the way to resolve the matter. So I can tell you that we are going to take very firm action. We believe this is an indication of a failure on the part of the Regional Directorate of Education in Upper East, a failure on the part of the Municipal Directorate, and clearly the management of the school has failed this young girl, and we will not tolerate that. I am indicating a failure all the way from the school to the Regional Directorate. Matters of this nature ought to have been immediately conveyed to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. You don't sit around with matters of this nature. No, we won't tolerate it. So, indiscipline would not be tolerated at any level of the structure.
And those are the major stories from Ghana. But beyond the politics, governance, and social issues, what is happening in the economy? Ghana's banking sector is recording a significant rise in profitability. Investor activities on the Ghana Stock Exchange has also surged. The country is again confronting the question of how much value it is losing by exporting raw commodities such as the shea butter. We now move into the world of business and finance right after the break. We now begin business news with the currency. President John Dramani Mahama says the Bank of Ghana is preparing measures to refresh the cedi as authorities seek to strengthen the confidence in the country's economy and the currency.
President John Dramani Mahama has disclosed plans by the Bank of Ghana to refresh Ghana's cedi. The president says the move forms part of broader efforts to strengthen the currency, maintain microeconomic stability, and boost confidence in the Ghanaian economy. He indicated that the Bank of Ghana is considering measures aimed at improving the integrity and efficiency of the currency as government continues its economic recovery program. President Mahama says the government remains focused on creating the conditions necessary for a more stable cedi, lower inflation, and improved purchasing power for Ghanaians. The latest development comes as authorities continue efforts to consolidate gains in the economy and restore confidence in Ghana's financial system. The Bank of Ghana is expected to provide further details on the proposed measures and what the refresh of the cedi will entail.
And whilst the currency remains under focus, Ghana's banking sector is reporting strong financial results, and profit before tax reportedly increased by nearly 40% in 2025.
Ghana's banks are reporting significantly stronger financial performance, with the sector's profits before tax increasing by almost 40% in 2025. According to the PwC Ghana Banking Survey 2026, total industry income also rose by 24.1% from 35.5 billion in 2024 to 44.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. Investment income was a major driver of the improved performance, increasing by 7.8 billion Ghana cedis or 45.2%. Net trading income also recorded strong growth, rising by 43.5% to add another 2.4 billion Ghana cedis to banks' earnings. The sector further benefited from a sharp reduction in loan impairment losses, which fell by 75.9% from 3.5 billion Ghana cedis to 841 billion Ghana cedis. However, the strong profits come amid questions about whether banks are doing enough to channel their earnings into productive lending and support for businesses and households. Operating expenses also increased by about 26.5% during the year, reaching 20.2 billion Ghana cedis. PwC is cautioned that maintaining the current level of profitability could become more challenging as the banking industry adjusts to a lower interest rate environment.
From the banking to agriculture, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana is calling for a greater budgetary support for the sector. The association wants at least 10% of the 2027 national budget allocated to agriculture.
PFAG says increased investment in agriculture is critical to improving food production, strengthening food security, and supporting the livelihoods of millions of Ghanaians. The association is urging government to move beyond board policy commitments and provide adequate funding for farmers across the country. It is proposing a dedicated farmers fund to provide targeted support for areas such as inputs, irrigation, mechanization, storage, and access to affordable financing. PFAG believes such a fund could help address some of the persistent challenges confronting smallholder farmers and improve their productivity and incomes. The association is also calling for greater investment in climate-resilient agriculture as farmers continue to face challenges linked to changing weather patterns and raising production costs. PFAG says allocating 10% of the national budget to agriculture would demonstrate government's commitment to making the sector a stronger pillar of Ghana's economic development. The Farmers Association says the 2027 budget presents an opportunity for government to place agriculture at the center of efforts to secure food supplies, create jobs, and improve rural livelihoods.
Meanwhile, activities on the Ghana Stock Exchange is picking up significantly